All right, so many people are thinking about how to help young adults get a handle on their finances, especially as they're approaching marriage. We're doing a deep dive into financial guidance for young adults, and hopefully this is going to give you the knowledge you need to guide them through this really exciting but financially complex time in their lives.
Yeah, it really is.
Did you know there's a recommendation for an emergency career fund?
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, we'll unpack that
We will.
and so much more.
It's fascinating. This source really emphasizes starting with the basics,
Yeah.
building that solid foundation, before you dive into all the complex investing strategies. It's like constructing a building. You need a strong base before you can add all the
Yeah.
fancy stuff, right?
Okay, so let's talk about that foundation. Budgeting, saving, becoming financially independent. Those are like the cornerstone.
They are.
Right.
Right.
I've always struggled with that whole paying yourself first thing. It feels like there's never enough left over at the end of the month.
Right. Well, that's a common feeling, but think of it this way. If you wait until the end of the month to save, chances are there won't be anything left. Paying yourself first means automating a portion of your income to go directly into savings, kind of like a bill that you pay to your future self.
Oh.
You know, it helps build that financial discipline and ensures that you're consistently working towards those goals.
Yeah.
Plus, having that emergency fund can be a huge stress reliever. Can you imagine facing a sudden car repair or a medical bill without having that safety net?
That makes a lot of sense. The source also talks about retirement, which, it can feel like a lifetime away for young adults.
Oh, absolutely. But it's never too early to start, though, especially with a Roth IRA.
Yeah.
What's interesting about a Roth IRA is that you contribute after-tax dollars, but then all of your earnings grow tax-free, and then you don't pay taxes when you withdraw in retirement. So this is particularly advantageous for young adults who are likely in a lower tax bracket now than they will be later in life.
So you're basically taking advantage of your current tax situation. Exactly.
While locking in those future benefits. Smart move.
Smart.
Let's tackle something maybe a bit less exciting.
Sure.
Debt. Student loans, credit card debt. These can be major hurdles
Yeah.
for young adults.
Yeah.
What strategies does this source suggest for managing those?
It's all about having a plan. For student loans, the source really dives into different repayment options, like income-driven repayment plans,
Okay.
which can lower your monthly payments based on your income. For credit cards, it emphasizes the importance of paying your balances in full each month to avoid those sky-high interest charges.
Right.
It's like a snowball effect. The longer you carry a balance, the more that debt grows.
That snowball analogy, that really hits home.
Yeah.
I've been there
We've all been there.
with the credit card debt. Speaking of financial health, what about credit scores?
Oh, good one.
They're so important, but I've always been a little intimidated by the whole thing.
I get it. It can feel like this mysterious number that's dictating your financial future, right?
So the source really demystifies credit scores and how they impact your ability to get loans, especially large ones like a mortgage.
Uh-huh.
They highlight this key factor called your debt-to-income ratio, which is basically the percentage of your gross monthly income that goes towards your debt payments. Keeping this ratio low is crucial for getting approved for loans and securing those favorable interest rates.
So the lower the ratio, the better your chances of actually getting a loan.
Exactly.
All right. Let's shift gears a little bit to a big decision that so many young couples face, renting versus buying a home.
Huge one.
Yeah, and I remember feeling so overwhelmed when I was trying to figure that out.
Oh, for sure. The source acknowledges that this is a major decision. It comes with, financial and emotional considerations, right?
Yeah.
It encourages people to really weigh the pros and cons carefully. So, for example, renting offers flexibility, lower upfront costs, while buying, that allows you to build equity and you can potentially benefit from that appreciation.
Yeah. Okay. While we're talking about big decisions, let's not forget about transportation. Cars are a huge expense,
They are.
but often seen as a necessity.
Right. Well, that's where it gets interesting. This source really challenges that assumption that car ownership is always the best option.
Okay.
It encourages you to, really crunch the numbers, factoring in not just the car payment, but the insurance, maintenance, fuel, even depreciation.
Oh, wow.
And then they suggest exploring those alternatives, like public transportation, biking, especially if it's feasible for your lifestyle and your location.
So before you sign that car loan, do the math
Do the math.
and see if there are more cost-effective, even eco-friendly options out there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we've covered budgeting, saving, debt management, and some of those big life decisions.
Big ones.
Let's level up a bit.
Okay.
Talk about investing and building some financial literacy.
This is where it gets exciting.
I know, right?
The source dives into, the basics of investing, covering stocks, bonds, ETFs. ETFs, those are exchange-traded funds. They're basically baskets of stocks or bonds that offer that instant diversification.
Mm.
And they highlight the importance of starting early to take advantage of the power of compounding, which is basically earning interest on your interests.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty cool. And they encourage you to explore those user-friendly personal finance apps. Those can make investing a lot more accessible and less intimidating.
Yeah, and let's not forget about taxes. Can be a bit of a headache. But the source really emphasizes that even just basic tax knowledge can save you money and prevent costly mistakes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They touch on things like filing correctly, taking advantage of deductions and credits, and even understanding how different types of income are taxed. And yeah, this leads into a pretty fascinating concept they introduce, an emergency career fund.
Now, that's something I haven't heard of.
It's interesting, right?
I'm intrigued, but before we dive into that, let's shift our focus a little bit to another crucial aspect of financial planning,
Okay.
protecting your future with insurance and estate planning.
Big one.
It might seem premature for young adults,
Yeah.
but the source stresses that getting these things in place early on is really important.
It's all about peace of mind. The source covers health, life, and disability insurance, like those safety nets for those unexpected events in life. And even though it's not the most cheerful topic, they also touch on estate planning, which is basically deciding what happens to your assets, who makes decisions for you if you become incapacitated or pass away.
Yeah, I mean, even though it's not something that most young adults want to think about,
Of course not.
having those documents in place, wills, power of attorney, healthcare directives, all of that can save a lot of heartache and confusion down the road.
Exactly. And it's about taking control of your future no matter what life throws your way.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground already in this first part of our deep dive, from budgeting basics to protecting your future. I'm feeling a lot more informed, and I cannot wait to unpack this whole emergency career fund concept.
Stay tuned. We'll dive into that, and we'll explore even more strategies for building that financial confidence in the next part of our deep dive.
All right.
See you then.
Sounds good.
So welcome back to our deep dive into financial guidance for young adults, especially as they're approaching marriage.
We're really getting into the nitty-gritty of these crucial financial decisions.
Yes, we are.
I'm still really curious about that emergency career fund that you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah. That's a really forward-thinking concept that can empower young adults in their careers. So picture this. You have this financial cushion to fall back on if you unexpectedly lose your job, or if you want to switch careers, or even to take a break for personal growth. You wouldn't be forced to take just any job just to make ends meet.
It's like having this extra layer of security, allowing you to be more strategic about your career path.
Exactly. It gives you the flexibility to, maybe invest in additional training or take some time to network or even finally launch that side hustle you've been dreaming about.
Yeah. So how does someone actually go about building this emergency career fund? Is it similar to a regular emergency fund?
It is, in a way. You would consistently set aside a portion of your income, ideally in a separate savings account. The amount you need will depend on your individual situation and your, risk tolerance, of course. 6 months worth of living expenses is a good starting point for a regular emergency fund, but with a career fund, you might want to consider saving even more, especially if you work in an industry that's known for its ups and downs, or, if your job search might take a little longer.
Makes sense. It's about assessing your personal circumstances and planning accordingly.
Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about, the costs associated with marriage itself.
Weddings, that can be such a huge expense. And there are all those other costs that come along with it: engagement rings, honeymoons, even just the legalities of getting married.
Right. The source really emphasizes having open and honest conversations about these costs early on. Couples need to be on the same page about their budget for the wedding and, how they plan to pay for everything. It's all about setting those realistic expectations together.
I imagine that starting your married life buried under a mountain of debt isn't exactly ideal.
You're right. And speaking of debt, the source also talks about prenuptial agreements, especially for couples who have significant differences in assets or debts coming into the marriage.
I know this can be a sensitive topic for some, but I think it's so important to have these conversations openly and respectfully.
I completely agree. The source emphasizes that, Prenuptial agreements are not about a lack of trust, but rather about protecting each person's interests and ensuring that financial clarity within the marriage.
It's like having this practical safeguard, especially if one partner comes into the marriage with, a business or a large inheritance or even a lot of student loan debt. A prenup can help avoid potential conflict down the line.
Right. It helps establish clear guidelines for managing finances, protecting assets, and addressing those potential issues that might arise in the future, like divorce or even the death of a spouse.
It's all about being proactive and having those, tough conversations up front rather than avoiding them and potentially facing bigger problems later on.
Right, exactly. Now let's talk about another key area that sometimes gets overlooked: networking and career growth. This can have a huge impact on that long-term financial security for young adults.
The source encourages investing in career development, whether that means getting certifications or attending conferences or even going back to school for an advanced degree.
Yeah. It's about, constantly learning and expanding your skills, which can lead to earning a higher income and open up, all sorts of new career opportunities. Not to mention, networking is key.
Building those relationships with people in your field is so valuable. It's like building a support system and staying in the loop on industry trends.
Exactly. You never know what doors those connections might open.
So we've covered a lot: building that emergency career fund, understanding the costs of getting married, the role of prenuptial agreements and the importance of networking and, growing your career.
Yeah.
And woven through all of these topics is communication.
Yes.
Open, honest, and respectful communication about finances is essential, I think, at every stage.
At every stage.
Whether it's discussing a wedding budget or deciding how to manage your finances as a couple, or even navigating those big career decisions, communication is key to building a strong financial foundation together.
It's about being on the same page, aligning your goals, and approaching finances as a team.
Now let's dive into managing money as a couple. That's when things can get a little more complex.
Oh, it definitely can be tricky. But this source provides some great advice on navigating those shared finances.
One of the first decisions couples face is whether to merge their bank accounts or keep them separate. What does the source have to say about that?
Well, it doesn't offer like a one-size-fits-all approach. It acknowledges that each couple will have their own, different preferences and different financial situations. Some couples might feel more comfortable with a joint account, while others prefer to maintain some level of financial independence.
Yeah, the key is to find a system that works for both people, right? And
Yeah.
ensures that transparency and accountability.
Absolutely. And regardless of whether, the accounts are merged or not, the source emphasizes the importance of creating a joint budget.
Okay.
This means like tracking income and expenses, setting financial goals together, and making decisions about, how the money will be allocated. It's about collaborating and making sure both partners feel heard and respected.
It makes sense to approach finances as this team effort.
It does.
And it's not just about the numbers, right? There's an emotional side to finances as well.
You're absolutely right. Money can be a huge source of stress and conflict in relationships, so it's important to address any underlying issues or differences in, financial values.
Open communication, empathy, and a willingness to compromise are essential for successfully navigating those challenges.
Absolutely. The source also suggests couples consider seeking guidance from, financial advisors. They can offer objective advice and help couples create a personalized financial plan.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now let's shift our focus to another crucial aspect of financial planning for couples: saving for the future.
Right.
It's not just about retirement savings, is it? It's about setting those shared goals and working together to reach them.
Exactly. For many couples, buying a home is a top priority. The source emphasizes the importance of building equity and, the long-term benefits of owning a home as opposed to renting for years and years.
Yeah, it's about creating a shared vision for the future and taking those concrete steps to make it a reality.
Right.
And as couples plan for the future, it's also important to consider the potential impact of, life's unexpected events.
Absolutely. That's where insurance comes in. We talked about the importance of health insurance earlier, but the source also emphasizes the need for life insurance, especially for couples with children.
Oh, yeah. Life insurance can offer that financial protection for your loved ones in the event of, an untimely death.
Right. It can help ensure that, the mortgage can be paid off or, children's education can be funded and the families can maintain their standard of living.
Yeah. Disability insurance is another important consideration, especially if one or both partners rely heavily on their income to maintain their lifestyle.
Absolutely. Disability insurance can replace a portion of the lost income if someone becomes unable to work because of, illness or injury.
So we've covered a lot in this part of our deep dive. Managing money together, planning for the future, and protecting ourselves against the unexpected. It seems like the key takeaway is that financial planning as a couple is this ongoing journey.
It is. It requires open communication, collaboration, and, being willing to adapt to changing circumstances.
It's all about working as a team to build a secure and fulfilling financial future together.
Now get ready, because in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some additional resources and strategies that can empower young adults to make well-informed financial decisions. Stay tuned for more valuable insights and practical tips to help you guide those young adults you care about.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We are wrapping up our exploration of financial guidance for young adults, especially those thinking about marriage. In this last part, let's focus on resources and that importance of continuous learning when it comes to, personal finance. I think it's really easy to feel like you have to memorize everything from this deep dive, but really it's more about having the tools to keep learning and growing.
Yeah, you're right. Proactive learning is key. Our source emphasizes that a lot.
Okay.
It's not about like setting up your finances once and never looking back. Right?
Yeah.
The financial landscape is
Yeah.
constantly changing, so it's important to, keep educating yourself and adapting.
So where can young adults go for, reliable financial advice? There's so much information out there. It can feel overwhelming to know where to even start.
Yeah, well, the source highlights several really great avenues. For personalized guidance, a reputable financial advisor can be a great resource. They can really help you create a plan that's tailored to your specific goals and circumstances.
That makes sense, especially for, more complex situations. But what about those who are just starting out? Are there resources that can help them build that basic financial literacy?
Absolutely. There are tons of free resources online, educational websites, podcasts like ours, even those financial literacy apps that make learning more interactive and fun. I've personally learned a lot from podcasts. It's like, having a conversation with a financial expert, like right in your earbuds.
And let's not forget about good old-fashioned books. A well-written personal finance book can be like having a financial mentor, guiding you every step of the way.
Reading is such a fantastic way to deepen your understanding of those different financial topics, whether it's, budgeting or investing or managing debt. There's a book out there to help.
And sometimes the best financial lessons come from, real-life experiences and conversations, not just from books or experts.
Absolutely. The source encourages, young adults to connect with family members, mentors, or even like financially savvy friends. Sharing experiences and learning from each other's mistakes can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
I remember learning so much about managing money just from talking to my grandparents about their experiences during the Great Depression.
Wow.
Gave me a whole new perspective on the importance of saving and being prepared for the unexpected.
That's a really powerful example. We've covered so much in this deep dive: budgeting, saving, debt management, investing, insurance, those complexities of managing money as a couple. I mean, the list goes on.
It does.
So as we wrap up, what's the one key message that you really hope listeners take away from all of this?
I think it's that financial well-being is within everyone's reach.
Yeah.
It's not about becoming a financial expert overnight, right? It's about taking small steps, building good habits, and being proactive about your financial future. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, and you don't have to go it alone. There are so many resources, tools, people to support you every step of the way. So now that you are equipped with all of this knowledge, what's that first step that you are going to take? What conversation will you start with that young adult that you want to support on their financial journey? We hope this deep dive has given you the confidence and the inspiration to empower the young adults in your life to build a strong financial foundation for their future. Thanks for joining us, and happy financial planning.